Hey, I'm Michelle,
And I'm Ronald,
and this is Talking Squirrels.
the middle school ministry podcast. Michelle, we were just, before we got started here, we busy.
We're so busy. We're the most busy.
You are traveling to all the weddings. You have all the weddings.
Everyone just decided to get married this year.
It's not bad.
We have to go everywhere.
So you've been, all of your weekends have been full of wedding travel and
Wedding
celebrating.
travel, wedding prep, wedding
Are you in
celebrations.
any of these weddings? Like, are you bridesmaid? Or are you just going to
This last
celebrate?
week I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that one was really fun because she was in my wedding, so I was in her wedding.
Reciprocal weddings. How nice.
It was great. So it was really fun to switch places this time. It's a much easier.
Do you prefer being in the wedding party as to just attending?
Great question. It was kind of fun because I loved her wedding party.
Yeah.
It was just a fun wedding party. So for that one, I'm like, oh my gosh, I loved being a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may differ for different people. But yeah, I actually really like being in weddings. It's a lot of money.
You're not wrong.
But it's so fun. And it's such an honor when people ask you, right?
I mean, yeah, that's a big deal. I was in two of my roommates' weddings,
Yeah.
But
there's nothing special about it.
No, there's definitely something you get to celebrate in a different way when that happens. That's just really cool.
Yeah. And you get to hear all the fun details, and you get kind of the behind the scenes of the wedding stuff. And I just love love.
I love love.
I love love. I'm that person. And I cry. We went to a wedding 2 months ago. I didn't even know the people. It was on my husband's side. And I just cried. I didn't know them. That was the first time I met them. And I just cried. Because I just love love.
I'm just so into this.
I just love it.
Oh, no. Well, that's fun and amazing for sure.
But I was super bummed for this past weekend, even though I got to celebrate. But I did get to miss a really cool event, which you hosted.
We did. We hosted the National Day of Volunteer Youth Ministry Training.
National Day of Volunteer Youth Ministry Training.
So I think they are going to take that acronym down to National Day of Training. I think.
What? I don't understand.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's such a long acronym. NDOVYMT.
It's so easy.
It was easy. Actually, it was a lot of fun to host. So their DYM's heart behind hosting this was hey, we want every church to be able to do this, even churches that have terrible Wi-Fi and are out in the middle of nowhere.
So good.
And can't afford to send their team to a conference.
Right.
So it was as a host site, you paid $500 to be a host site, and then you got all the material and stuff, and it was just a video that you downloaded.
That's so rad.
And when it came, you pressed play, and that was it. So when you and I talked about the Global Leadership Summit,
yeah,
that's
that's
hey,
live, right?
Yeah, it's live, big deal.
Yeah, because I know that's a lot of work to put on.
Yeah, simulcast the whole thing.
Yeah.
With this, they didn't want, the youth room's crappy Wi-Fi to stop somebody from hosting.
That's amazing.
I mean, it was great. So I think we ended up getting the video a couple days before and downloaded it, which was really funny. They sent us the video. There ended up being one part where the audio was bad, and so they're like, "Oh man, crap, we have to fix this," and they did. So I got us a new video.
Oh wow!
A couple days later, and I had to download it. I downloaded the first one at my house, which was all right, 45 minutes. It was a 2.5 hour video, so it's pretty hefty.
Because it's just all the training on it, right?
Yeah, it's everything. I brought it up to the church, and the first time when I hit download, the church Wi-Fi was 3 days until this download. It's the event's going to be over before this video finishes downloading.
Oh, your Wi-Fi.
It finally worked. And the IT guy and I were just laughing at that. But no, we had 7 churches come.
That's awesome.
And do it with us. It was really cool. So got to talk to them, and they said they really enjoyed it. It was a worthwhile training for them. And it was
That's what I've been hearing is why isn't there this for all of the ministries? Why isn't this for kids ministry? Why isn't this for whatever ministry people are in? I'm yeah, it makes sense.
No, and because one of the things, which was great, so it's $500. It can be a lot of money to host, but to
Totally.
show up at an event, it was like 130, 120.
It was not too expensive for our leaders.
And you could bring everybody you wanted to. So like $120 for like 20 leaders if you wanted, or 30 or however.
Yeah.
And like you can't pay the entrance fee to other conferences for that much.
Oh no, not even close.
And then there's the travel and the food and all this stuff. It was great.
Yeah.
I love the idea. They're already talking about doing it in 2020, and
I saw that.
We are trying to figure out how we're going to do it. But I know my leaders got a ton out of it, and it was really, really cool.
That's right.
Yeah. So like some of the guys that were doing it was Doug Fields, Heather Fleece, Mark Oestreicher, Chep Clark, Katie Edwards, one of my huge heroes, Carl Ramos, Carol Powell.
Oh, yeah. I love every single person on there.
I was, I really liked Heather Fleece, what she talked about, just because she was saying, hey, know who you are and remember what you were like when you were in middle school.
So like
whenever we do like leader training, we ask everybody like, what's your favorite middle school memory? Yeah. And they like don't know, because
right? They're like, no,
like they have suppressed those memories, right? They're gone.
That's so funny.
But like remembering them though helps you remember like what these middle school students are going through and how big a deal it is if so-and-so likes so-and-so, or if they get a B in, this class, all this stuff. And so she said she actually keeps her middle school yearbook on her desk, and she like flips through to remind her of middle school.
So I totally still have all of mine.
Middle school. Ooh, I think that's at my parents' house. High school, I know, is on my high school is I have that one. I don't know why, but
I've kept every yearbook from every year.
Oh man, middle school.
It just was like I just loved it. I didn't even really like school. I just loved having the yearbook.
Yeah.
And I looked the same, I think, in every photo. From 6th grade to like senior year, I was like, I did not change.
Let's say it took me a while to grow into my ears. I changed. I changed a lot. I was glad for the change once we got there.
One of the things that I remember from Heather from a couple of years ago that she said, and it was similar to what she talked about at the National Day of Volunteer Youth Ministry Training.
Yeah.
That's such a mouthful.
It is.
I had to take a breath. I also just talk really fast, as you know. But she said, and maybe you remember this, she did a exercise with us where she was like, go back to middle school, and I want you to think of something that you were not enough of and too much of.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do, and that was super helpful.
Yeah, where she was like, you have to go back, and you're like, I was too blank and not blank enough.
Yeah.
I literally go back to that all the time.
Like, do you do that with your leaders?
Yeah, I totally did it with them, and they were like, whoa.
My mind is blown. You're like, right, I'm smart. I mean, Heather's smart.
Right, and I was like, this is youth ministry. We just take things.
Yeah, no, it's mine now. I claim this. No, and that was, so like for my middle school leaders, that was really helpful to have them, kind of go, okay, I need to remember who I was in middle school, so I can think how I'm ministering to these middle schoolers right now, and then thinking about like who I am and like staying in my lane. But that's psychology stuff that my wife loves, and I am reminded like, okay, I'm an ENFP. I am a 2 wing 3.
Amazing.
Say what?
Amazing.
Yeah, no, and
I'm a 7.
I remember Woo is my highest on Strength Finder. I don't know all my other ones. Had to take the book home, but yeah, just going back through that and going, okay, what's my lane? How am I going to use the way that God made me to minister to middle school students?
Totally.
And then honestly, I mean, shout out to my wife. Like, she is huge on knowing who you are. And so like this is her lane with psychology and all this stuff. She loves this stuff.
Yeah.
So just remembering, okay, not only is this good for you to know for you so that you can say, hey, when I'm stressed, this is how I probably will react. This is how I'll come out of it. This is, how when things are going good, this is how I'm going to go. But also like, hey, I can look at this other person over here, and I can
Yeah.
get like kind of a read on them, even if they're a student or a parent or somebody, and go, okay, you're probably this,
Mm-hmm.
so I need to relate to you this way.
So good.
And just using that, understanding that, hey, God made us differently, and that's not bad. That we are different, and trying to use that in order to minister to people, uh, to effectively communicate to them and relate to them, and then hopefully, help them grow.
Yeah. That's the whole goal, right? Is to help them like develop themselves.
Oh gosh, and in middle school, when you're changing, you're growing, you're figuring out your identity. Like I think it would be really funny to give our middle school students like the Myers-Briggs or the 16 personalities and try to see like, okay, where do you fall?
Like right now.
Yeah, and to be like, this is who you are right now. Like, and as you change, this is who you are.
Yeah.
Maybe give it to them right at the beginning of sixth grade year, and then again at the end of their eighth grade year, and be like, hey, did you change? Are you different? Did your P turn into a J? All this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and just maybe helping them understand a bit about who they are. But definitely with my leaders, I think that would be really cool to try to say, hey, leaders, take this test, understand a bit more about who you are, so that you can minister in the way that God made you.
For sure. It's just like the like gifts test, right? Like, hey, where are you gifted at? Like, what are the
Yeah,
gifts and talents that God is giving you? And you can find your spiritual gifts.
teaching and administration. That's where I
Yeah.
land.
Is that yours?
Yep.
Nice.
What are yours, Michelle?
Oh gosh, it's been a while since I've taken it.
Heathen.
I know. In college, like if you wanted to go on a missions trip, you like had to take it like every year. And so for like 3 years straight, I took it. And then I was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I should really take that
were you
again.
then?
I wonder it's probably changed a ton.
What were you then? Do you remember?
Back then, it definitely was more like caregiver, like mission, very much like missions work.
Right.
Of like,
so you don't care anymore? Is that what you're saying? Like you've changed?
yes, a lot. Probably not. I mean, like, especially being in San Francisco, like that's definitely a missions field.
Right.
Less than 3% of the population, like Christians. But now that I've been like teaching more and stuff like that, I'm like, wow, I really like this.
So maybe it's fluctuated a little bit that way.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit moving into a different direction now.
Yeah.
But what do you think is one thing that, like, who is your favorite person that you think you got a lot out of for this trip?
So I love all these people, but for me, I needed to hear Doug when he first started talking about the heart of a volunteer, and saying, hey, you've got to take care of your own personal relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Which, I just, in youth ministry, you can get into the rut of going, hey, I'm reading from the Bible to teach other people, but, it's also for me. And then I'm singing these songs in church, and so that's also for me. And it's going, you know what, maybe, okay, I need to be more personally involved in my own walk, and not just being like, hey, I'm going to read this and then also teach from it later. Like I need to be reading just in the Bible for my own edification. And so that was a good reminder from Doug.
That's so good. I think, yeah, I find myself there so often, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then Marcus Stryker kind of went with that as well. We said that, hey, you've got your amygdala, which is your fear part of your brain. And then you've got your prefrontal cortex, which is your logical decision making, and then you've got your anterior cingulate in between, which is helping to balance the two.
I'm so proud of you for knowing all of these names.
It's recent, so that I've got it. And so the way that you help balance the two is 10 to 15 minutes a day of personal Bible study, meditation, and singing, spiritual songs.
Oh,
interesting.
like, okay,
I needed this. Like this was something for me, and so. In the past, I would use like my 25-minute commute into work to like listen to the news or listen to, whatever I wanted to.
Yeah.
So trying to make that more, hey, I'm going to listen to the Bible, do like a chapter from my Bible app, and then intentionally play songs that I sing with. So to have my moment with Jesus, like where I get, hey, this is me having my own personal time, and just it's the car, it's just me. Like I'm not, traffic isn't so crazy that like I'm dodging cars while I'm also praying with Jesus, and so that's been good. And so I needed that reminder from Doug and from Marco. That was really great.
Gosh, that's just really good. I have a couple of notes from like my intern that I've been looking at, and she is literally right under Doug's. It says the most important quality to bring to youth ministry is your personal connection to Jesus.
Preach.
I was like, wow, that's really good. And that was just like her first line on her notes, and I was like, I love this.
Yeah, and so for me that was a great reminder. And then Katie Edwards, I love her. She is the queen.
I just love Katie.
She's amazing.
I want to be your best friend.
Right. So her talking about how to help hurting kids,
awesome.
Being there, not freaking out on the inside, not letting that outwardly show.
Totally. Be cool.
Yeah.
Be cool, guys.
But also, like, hey, rally and thinking about, okay, I'm going to listen to this kid. I'm going to be ready because the crap could drop at any moment and it could happen at any time. You just got to be ready for the scenario, which she talked about. Like her team practices scenarios like, hey, I just found out my mom had cancer, and they would kind of brainstorm as a team. How would you talk to that kid? Which I thought that was useful. That was cool.
That's really cool. And she does that with like all of her leaders.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think she said they're good around tables and they have like cards in the middle, and they just pick up a card and it's got a scenario, and then they talk through, okay, how would you talk to that kid?
Ooh, I really like that.
That was a good little training tip. And then for her to talk about how we can come alongside those hurting kids, that was huge. It was really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, especially for our volunteers, right? Like they're not going to get that training just naturally.
No, some of that is putting in your youth ministry reps, right? The first time some kid tells you, I look at porn every day.
You're like, cool.
Not
all right.
And so, yeah, some of that is going to come with reps. It's just you. The longer you're in ministry, the more you're going to come into contact with that. But some of that is to just be ready for it. To know it could happen at any moment is a big deal.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like a couple of my leaders who I knew were there, and they have been with us for a month now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm so glad they heard that.
Yeah. So I'm totally on board. It was a great training. A great training like format, a 2.5 hour video done. It was really encouraging for me and my team. I think we're going to do it again next year. We still got to actually say yes as a team, right. But everybody on our staff was like, okay, this was good and useful. So
that's so cool.
Hats off to DYM. I think they pulled off a really great event, a really great training that is going to make people better youth pastors and better volunteers. So
absolutely. And something that hasn't been done before.
No. So way to go then.
Them is they're willing to do something, and if it fails, like that's okay.
Yeah.
And most of the time it succeeds, but
yeah, they are good at that. And gosh, I think they said something like 20 to 30,000 volunteers trained that day. It's just nuts.
That's wild to think about.
Yeah. So just amazing. Absolutely amazing that happened. So yeah, way to go, DYM. It was great.
You guys are awesome. And we appreciate you and everything that you do.
For real. Well, hey guys, thanks for listening to us talk about the National Day of Volunteer Youth Ministry Training. And if you hosted
do they know? Know how much we make fun of it?
I think so.
Okay, good.
I've tried to tell them, but I don't think they're going to listen to me. We'll see what changes for next year. I'm looking forward to it.
I kind of hope they don't change it. Personally, it's just a thing now.
Yes, and I might eventually type it right the first time.
Right,
because it hasn't happened yet. Oh gosh! Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening and for joining us. If you had any type of interaction with the day, let us know what you thought about it. If it was helpful, and tag DYM, let them know that they're doing a great job and training some volunteers. It's a really fantastic thing for middle school ministry and for youth ministry.
Absolutely.
Hey, Michelle, it's always good hanging out.
Always fun. We'll see you next time.
Yep, talk to you next week, everybody.
Bye.